I think politically, it's bad. It makes the Supreme Court look very partisan. They're supposed to be wearing these kind of black and white umpire jerseys or whatever. They look like they're wearing red jerseys or even MAGA hats. It's going to go down bad politically for the Supreme Court.
Yes. Van Jones on the cable news network. Now, I was reminded yesterday, Jeff Bezos gave Van Jones $100 million for being black. Kind of like, Barack Obama, the Nobel Peace Prize, and the presidency, for that matter. Yeah, I was reminded of that yesterday. What a remarkable country we have here. Van Jones, self-described communists, which is why he was a hero of the Obama administration. Barack Obama mentored by a communist. Barack Obama made a Communist Party voter the director of the CIA. And all of that is okay because, racism, something like that. Isn't that amazing? Van Jones, $100 million. I had to go look it up in 2023. Van Jones, Jeff Bezos, $100 million man. Pushed out of his own nonprofit. Van Jones created a nonprofit. He was given $100 million. How do I guess the profit is already done. So I'll take somebody else's $100 million, somebody who earned it, and I'll whiz it away, and I'll call it a nonprofit. And then everybody will get rich off of a thing called a nonprofit. Just amazing stuff. The CNN commentator who was given a mountain of cash by the Amazon founder to distribute says he's now launching a new initiative because, he got original reporting analysis straight from Washington to your inbox 3 times. It's just amazing. 2 years ago, facing a sea of reporters, Jeff Bezos praised Van Jones as an extraordinary philanthropic leader. He was nothing of the kind, handing the CNN commentator a $100 million blank check to distribute as he saw fit. Can you imagine? What a country this is. Gosh. And he's a CNN guy. Oh, no, the Supreme Court is real bad. Maybe you should give him $90 million. What do you think? Just amazing stuff. And Van Jones. And honestly, last time anybody asked him, he said, oh, yeah, communist. Then they just stopped asking him. He gave him a job in the Obama White House. And Anita Dunn praised the hiring of Van Jones by the Obama White House. And I remember she's the one who said that Chairman Mao Zedong of Communist China is her favorite political philosopher, along with Mother Teresa, because, hilarious, just funny as heck. Yeah. What a country. All right, now, let's get, because Joe Biden came out yesterday and he babbled a little bit. He was trying to read from the teleprompter at the White House, and he was attacking the Supreme Court and slandering and maligning the Supreme Court because that's what they do. And they need to own every organ in the government, or they're miserable. They can't sleep at night. And, they love to avoid taking anything to the Congress, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, and beyond. Hey, we're going to pay off everybody's student loans. So if you went to Harvard, we're going to give you hundreds of thousands of dollars. And if you worked your way up to becoming a painter or a plumber, well, screw you. You're paying for their Harvard education, their Yale Law School, and you're going to pay for it. What a bunch of suckers you guys are. They call themselves Democrats. Just amazing stuff. But Joe Biden yesterday, he came out and he attacked, all the Democrats are attacking the Supreme Court. AOC threatening to impeach the Supreme Court, or some portion, I guess 6 out of 9 members. The communists can stay. They don't know the English language or the Constitution, and therefore they're the Democrats' picks for the Supreme Court, of course. But Joe Biden yesterday, and they just hang everything on January 6th, don't they? Where Ashley Babbitt was shot and killed by a police officer in a racist attack on Ashley Babbitt, shot and killed while unarmed for the alleged crime of trespassing. And the Democrats now have the death penalty for trespassing. But if you rape and murder little girls as illegal aliens, then they'll stand up for you and against the death penalty because they're the left. They don't make sense. Joe Biden yesterday attacking the Supreme Court and President Trump and January 6th. I mean, you guys do know that you burned cities down from coast to coast, that you murdered dozens of people during those riots, that you injured thousands of police officers, that you committed billions of dollars in property damage, all because a career criminal junkie died of heart failure. You do know that, don't you? And you love the career criminal junkie so much that you put the police officer in prison where a Democrat stabbed him 22 times, and you guys are okay with that. In fact, you're more than okay with that because you're anti-police and pro-crime. You prove it at every turn. Oh, speaking of which, Joe Biden is meeting with my mayor today, Mayor Muriel Bowser in Washington, D.C., who is a Democrat and a dimwit. And they're talking about the weather. Weather is kooky, isn't it? Sure is. I have a transcript here. That's Joe Biden is going to meet with D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser to talk about the weather and how now people that work in certain jobs must get shade breaks and water breaks because climate change. Because climate change. That's the big thing. It's climate change. Got to keep your eyes peeled for that. Sounds painful keeping your eyes peeled, doesn't it? Just amazing stuff. These people. Speaking of the climate and all of that, turns out, I think, pretty much every EU member we learned today has failed to meet. Here's the story from the left-wing Politico. And the headline is, nearly every EU country blows major climate plan deadline. That is, your Democrat Party, and that in Europe they've got leftists. Just amazing stuff. July 1st, 2024, out of Brussels, governments are dragging their feet on a required plan to make the European Union's climate ambitions a reality, jeopardizing efforts to eradicate the bloc's global warming contributions by mid-century. Only 4 of the 27 European Union governments, the Netherlands, Denmark, Finland, and Sweden, met a Sunday deadline to submit their so-called national energy and climate plans, which they naturally call an NECP. They got to abbreviate. It doesn't abbreviate very well. It's the same number of syllables. Shut up. So they only 4 governments, and it's Denmark, Finland, Sweden, and the Netherlands, the Scandinavians. They met the thing while they're being overrun by Afghans who have contempt for them. But there you go. So Joe Biden's going to meet with Muriel Bowser to talk about the weather. And they're going to mandate stuff because the workers, they call us the workers now because they're communists, and that's what communists call, you're not a citizen, you're a worker. Honestly. All right, now let's get to Joe Biden yesterday at the White House because they're going to talk about the weather. And the news media is going to cover it like, oh, Joe Biden's got climate goals. Yeah, I got climate goals too. It's for you guys to shut up. How about that? There's too much CO2 coming out of your festering gobs, your pie holes. All right, let's go to Joe Biden. Joe Biden yesterday, soundbite number 1. And he's very upset about the Supreme Court. Later, he's going to be angry about the weather when he meets with my mayor. Last year we had a record number of carjackings. We had the highest homicide rate in more than a quarter century. Maybe the weather shouldn't be your number one concern because you're not going to change the weather. It's a mentally ill ambition that you have. But Joe Biden's still very angry about the Supreme Court. And he's going to seize on this the moment he gets kicked out of office, when he gets some R&R starting January 20th of next year. Here's Joe Biden yesterday at the White House, angry about the Supreme Court.
Nearly 4 years ago, my predecessor sent a violent mob to the U.S. Capitol.
No, he didn't.
To stop the peaceful transfer of power.
No, he didn't.
We all saw it with our own eyes. We sat there and watched it happen that day.
Now, he said, should we play the audio of peacefully and patriotically? Because that's what he said, let your voices be known. But that's an anti-First Amendment thing. And then they shot and killed Ashley Babbitt. woman that served 12 years honorably in the United States Air Force and then was killed in a racist attack by a U.S. Capitol police officer. I say it's a racist attack because every time, like if a black guy is killed by a white cop, it's a racist attack. This is a black cop killing a white woman unarmed, not attacking him, not assaulting him. Trespassing was the alleged crime. Lieutenant Byrd was given an award. Was it a marksmanship award? Because he killed her with one shot, didn't he? And the Democrats are good with that. They're down with that. Killing their political enemies and jailing their Steve Bannon was supposed to report to prison yesterday because the Democrats put their political enemies in prison. And Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro perpetrated allegedly the same crime that Hunter Biden committed, defying a congressional subpoena, contempt of Congress. But Hunter Biden's out smoking crack with hookers. And Steve Bannon, did he report? Yeah, he reported to prison yesterday because the left puts their political enemies in prison and sometimes they shoot them and kill them, like Ashley Babbitt. How many protesters were shot outside the White House when they set the Church of the Presidents on fire and injured 160 to 180 police officers, forced the evacuation of the president and the first family? Oh, none? How many went to prison for that? None? Zero? None? Not one? How many of those people were hunted down by the FBI and the Justice Department? None? What about the guy that put the pipe bombs outside of the DNC headquarters and the RNC headquarters, and we have video of him talking on his cell phone with a timestamp on it? Can't find out who that guy is? His parents must be big Democrat donors, I'm thinking. Amazing. Joe Biden yesterday, my predecessor always opened with a lie. And so that's good. And that's, Jen, they're still trying to lynch Trump because he's their political enemy and put him in prison. President Trump will now challenge the New York City verdict based on the Supreme Court decision, and we'll see how that works out. I suspect they're not going to say, well, that was your official, you acting in your official capacity as President of the United States. But we'll see. There are lawyers craftier than I, no doubt. And here's Joe Biden yesterday. Still, we got to put Trump in prison.
Now the man who sent that mob to the U.S. Capitol is facing potential criminal conviction for what happened that day.
What?
And the American people deserve to have an answer in the courts before the upcoming election. The public has a right to know.
Not going to happen.
The answer about what happened on January 6th before they asked to vote again this year. Now, because of today's decision, that is highly, highly unlikely. It's a terrible disservice to the people of this nation.
It's also Haile Selassie, but that's not important. And then amazing. So this is him at the White House, and there are a couple of reporters there. Then he lies, just a political attack on the Supreme Court and President Trump.
I know I will respect the limits of the presidential powers I have for 3.5 years.
Uh-huh.
But any president, including Donald Trump, will now be free to ignore the law. I concur with Justice Sotomayor's dissent today.
Uh-huh.
Here's what she said. She said, in every use of official power, the president is now a king above the law. With fear for our democracy, I dissent. End of quote. So should the American people dissent. I dissent.
Yeah, well, we already arrested one would-be Supreme Court assassin outside the home of Brett Kavanaugh. And should we play Chuck Schumer threatening Supreme Court justices in front of the Supreme Court? These people are a threat to democracy. But they legitimately are. They're not here to save it. They're here, power to them is something to be abused. Joe Biden. Let's play Joe Biden because he walked away and a couple of reporters shouted quiet. He just wandered off with his arms hanging limp at his sides.
I dissent. May God bless you all, and may God help preserve our democracy. Thank you. And may God protect our troops.
He's walking away.
What makes you so confident you should be the president?
Why do you feel so confident you should be the president? Someone yelled. That must have been Jackie Heinrich from Fox News, because no Washington Post reporter would ever have the gumption, the backbone, the spine to ask of their saints, of their religious leaders. Boy, oh boy. Yeah. And Joe Biden's going to McLean, Virginia today for a political event. Got more on that coming up, too. You know that the financial world has changed along with everything else. It's time to consider how you will adapt. We just saw a seismic shift happen in the global financial world when Saudi Arabia decided that they may exit the petrodollar system, which has provided stability for so long. For 75 years, the petrodollar agreement helped to maintain the U.S. dollar's status as the world's reserve currency. But that era may be over under Joe Biden for Saudi Arabia, and this change could have very far-reaching effects for our economy. In times of major economic transition, a lot of investors look to diversify with what we call tangible assets. Gold, with its amazing history as a safer harbor, may become the go-to option for investors looking for growth potential. Aren't we all? That's why I recommend calling Advantage Gold. All you have to do is text Chris to 1-888-255-0668 for a 100% free 2024 gold and silver kit. Plus, you mention this ad and you may qualify for a $1,300 bonus, a $1,300 bonus. Just text Chris, C-H-R-I-S, to 1-888-255-0668 to take action now. Message and data rates may apply. Performance may vary. You should always consult financial and tax professionals. Yeah, Joe Biden yesterday. And then he just wandered off with his mouth hanging open and his arms hanging limp to the side after reading a little bit of teleprompter, screwing it up only a couple of times. Kakistocracy, right? Kakistocracy. Progressive Advocacy Group plans $10 million offensive targeting Supreme Court. The Supreme Court, $10 million. Democrats are going to spend slandering the Supreme Court, the racists that they are. They are un-American. They are anti-American. They're not on our side. Amazing stuff. Left-wing advocacy group called Demand Justice. It's always a demand. They're not polite people. They've already turned out one would-be assassin. Where is he? Because I know if he were a MAGA hat-wearing guy, we would have heard all about it. We'd hear about his every day, what he's having for breakfast every day. But, you know, Democrats, people with guns, it's just who they are. I tell you, the madness just keeps rolling in. The Democrats in New York have disbarred Rudy Giuliani, the former great mayor of New York City, the September 11th, 2001 mayor of New York City, the guy who took down organized crime, the Italian mafia in New York City. And Rudy Giuliani has been disbarred by Democrats in New York who are corrupt, filthy, corrupt, and if they have a thimble full of power, they will abuse it before the sun goes down. They say for his role in Trump's 2020 election interference efforts. Hillary Clinton said the 2016 presidential election was stolen from her. Are you going to disbar her? No, she's a Democrat. They'll roll around in the mud with her. You kidding me? And get a load of this now, because whack-a-doodle-doo. CNN, and it's Jake Tapper. He was one of the Democrat moderators of the debate the other night. The headline at CNN is, Democratic governors seek meeting with White House after poor debate performance. I'm sorry, Democratic governors? Jake Tapper types, some Democratic governors are seeking a meeting with the White House to discuss their concerns about President Joe Biden in the aftermath of his poor debate performance. Multiple sources with knowledge of the discussions told CNN that, I guess they're anonymous. The concern from some of the nation's Democratic governors were aired on a call Monday organized by Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. One of these sources said the call was attended by governors only. Attended. It was attended by on the call, the governors, all Democrats, expressed surprise that none of them had heard from Biden himself. There was a strong sentiment on the call that they needed to hear from the president directly. He's orange now. I don't know if you guys know that, but he's orange. So if you don't want an orange president, you've got to get rid of Joe Biden now. That could be the final straw for them, now that he turned orange. There was also some discussion of having Vice President Kamala Harris address them. She's too busy doing that BET thing and quoting rappers. But never mind that. The governors, one of the sources said, were worried about going public with their concerns out of fear that it would lead to Biden digging in further. Plans for the meeting at the White House are underway, but it has not been scheduled. That is Jake Tapper allegedly typing, at least his name is on that. And that brings me to the next Jake Tapper item, because Jake Tapper, he's got a TV show on CNN. You might not be aware of that. But Jake Tapper, on his television show on CNN yesterday, he had a couple of things to say about the Democrats that are, what are they doing? They're pretending that Joe Biden is just fine and the debate performance was fine. And the headline at Fox News is, Tapper blasts Democrats' Orwellian tactics trying to convince public to, quote, not believe what you saw, end quote, at the debate. And Jake Tapper on his TV show on CNN yesterday, and he seemed a little rankled. He's like, wait a minute, the Democrats are pretending that everything is... Well, you pretended, Jake, that everything was fine during the debate and after the debate. Did he say anything critical after the debate? I don't know. Nobody watched CNN after the debate or during the debate, for that matter. But Jake Tapper on his TV show, his cable TV show yesterday.
There is a pattern, discernible pattern of Democratic officials seemingly trying to convince you, the public, to not believe what you saw and what you heard with your eyes and with your ears on Thursday night.
Not necessarily in that order, but yeah, that is, and of course, he noticed that the Democrats have come out. Look, Jake, you're part of this big lie, pal, oh pal of mine. You are a part of the problem. Now, good, every couple of years you have a cogent minute, but that doesn't put you in the clear. Honestly, pretty amazing stuff. Jake Tapper yesterday.
Democratic officials have tried to spin this in many ways. They said President Biden just had a cold. They said it was just one off night, akin to when President Obama in 2012 was rusty and seemed a little huffy. But behind the scenes, make no mistake, most Democratic officials witnessed the same shocking spectacle that you did. The difficulty that the presumptive Democratic nominee, the current president of the United States, had just articulating his basic thoughts during the 90 minutes of the debate.
Isn't that amazing? Yes, it is. The spinning is all very reminiscent of the George Orwell quote from the book 1984, Tapper said, alluding to having used the quote regarding Trump 5 years ago. He said, "It's relevant again today. The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command." Jake Tapper, we're having a little audio hiccup there.
The spinning is all very reminiscent of the George Orwell quote from the book 1984 that I invoked 5 years ago for a different situation and a different president. It's relevant again today. Quote, "The party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. It was their final, most essential command." We're not going to do that today on The Lead. We're going to talk honestly and frankly about...
He's going to talk honestly and frankly about yada, yada, yada. So Jake Tapper, former Democrat Party Capitol Hill staffer who sat there passively throughout the course of the debate while Joe Biden made up all kinds. I love how they say, oh, Trump lied during the debate. And they always take anything that's the hyperbole or a joke and, oh, look, he lied. What was the Joe Biden what did they compare him to? Funny stuff. What do they do? And they never correct, although that one CNN guy, a different CNN guy, did do a fact check that we played for you yesterday. Or maybe we played it for you on Friday. And, yeah. But Jake, hey, Jake, welcome to the party, pal. Because you're a part of that machine, pal of mine. That's what I'm telling you.
Never heard so much malarkey in my whole life.
A lot of malarkey. Pedals. Stat. Joe Biden needs to go. And I still, they circled the wagons. The debate was Thursday night. By really Thursday night, and certainly Friday morning, Democrats everywhere were saying, boy, Joe Biden's got to go. Then they got their SNAP 2 marching orders. And everybody did a 180 and said, no, Joe Biden's got to stay. He's got to save democracy because, their hyperbole is so insane, so demented, so Civil War-esque to save democracy. And the Supreme Court now must go. They must be impeached because the Constitution says that the president can't be sued and tried for everything that he does as president. They're insane, they're liars, they're dumb, they're corrupt, they're all kinds of crazy things. Yes, they are. Let's go to soundbite number 5. The Speaker of the entire House of Representatives, Mike Johnson, talking about all this insane rhetoric about the Supreme Court. And then, and at the same time, they tell you, no, Joe Biden's fine. But just yesterday, did we play this? Did we play that yesterday, that Joe Scarborough on Friday and then Joe Scarborough on Monday, giving the totally opposite take, because Democrats can do a 180 in the middle of a conversation. And I know I talked about it yesterday. They tell you the sky is black at 9 a.m. and tell you the sky is white at 10 a.m. and say that they were telling you the truth both times. It's quite amazing. Joe Scarborough on Friday was saying that Joe Biden, his performance so bad that the Democrats need to find another path.
This race should not be close. We've been asking, why is this race close? We have no idea why this race is close.
No idea.
We saw last night why this race has been close and why I fear Donald Trump will be the next president of the United States.
Fear.
Unless things change.
Yeah, because he's got to go. So Joe Scarborough and MSN, they're like, oh, no, Joe Biden. And then by Monday, Joe Scarborough had gotten his marching orders and he had to snap 2. And then quite suddenly, Joe Biden was the greatest thing ever, and he couldn't help but be a great president and get everything right all the time. They're just amazing. All right, I'm sorry. I threw you for a loop there, Michael. I apologize. Yeah, we were about to do the Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, who yesterday, after watching the Democrats threatening the Supreme Court again, honestly, you guys are like savages. You're like third world banana republic people. The Supreme Court, which you don't feel you totally control anymore. Too bad. You only had it for like 45 years or whatever it is. Never mind that. But Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House yesterday, was having none of it when it comes to all the Democrat Party rhetoric against the Supreme Court, AOC saying they're going to be impeached and they got to pack the court and they got to stack the court and they got to impeach the court. And the Senate leader, Chuck Schumer, the Lizard King, threatening Supreme Court justices on the steps in front of the Supreme Court. And then an assassin shows up with a gun and multiple magazines and kidnapping tools at Brett Kavanaugh's house. We learn much later, buried in a story, he was planning on murdering 3 Supreme Court justices. And the left-wing response is to dial up the heat. And the Speaker is having none of it.
What we're seeing tonight is despicable and it is dangerous. The president has been trying to undermine our legal system. First, they weaponized the Department of Justice to go after his chief political opponent, which of course is Donald Trump. And now, when it doesn't work the way they planned it, the way they designed it, when the law gets in the way of what they're trying to do, now he's trying to undermine the Supreme Court itself.
And let's not lose sight of the fact that they're yelling at everybody just days ago, weeks ago, when President Trump is in the dock. We must respect the rule of law. We must respect the jury. We must respect the court. How dare you not respect? How dare you disparage? How dare you diminish the important work of the judge who's a Joe Biden donor, whose daughter is a major Democrat fundraiser? How dare you with the Fani Willis and her boyfriend and the visits to the White House and the meetings with the White House counsel? And how you diminish the importance, and then the next minute, bam, 1 minute later, they attack the Supreme Court of the United States and look to undermine the rule of law. Just amazing stuff.
I dissent.
I dissent. Yeah, quoting Jake LaMotta there, Sonia Sotomayor. No, not never said. And back to CNN, because Van Jones, who was given $100 million for nothing by Jeff Bezos, which he could do with as he wishes. Van Jones on CNN. Oh, no, death squads, armies of, I don't know.
It's also scary because
It's also scary.
What is Trump going to do if Trump gets elected? And there's this idea that he can get away with even more stuff. That's really, really scary for the public because he already ran over every norm that he could. So it seems like, I mean, just I'm looking at this politically, not legally, politically, it's almost like a license to thug in a way. Like, you can do whatever you want, and the Supreme Court is probably going to let you get away with it. That is very frightening.
License to thug. Again, Barack Obama, your hero, who you worked for, a communist, Van Jones, last time anybody asked, put together the disposition matrix to kill people all over the world, including American citizens, without due process. No problem. Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama's Secretary of State, actually wanted to use a drone to assassinate Julian Assange, an Australian citizen, because he received leaks given by one of your transgender heroes who was pardoned from his 35-year prison sentence by Barack Obama after treasonously betraying his country and calling himself a lady. And you guys ran him for the Senate, the U.S. Senate in the state of Maryland. And you guys are okay with that. And Barack Obama weaponized the IRS to use against political enemies with names like Patriot in their title or Tea Party. And they were sidelined for the presidential election because you guys are criminals and you weaponized the IRS. You weaponized the Justice Department, the FBI. You lied to the FISA courts to get warrants to spy on your political enemies. And Barack Obama assassinated U.S. citizens without due process. But never mind, they were Muslims. So I guess that's okay. Joy Reid is on MSDNC, and she is quite out of her mind.
This is a clarion call to every American. By the way, that debate is like 34 felony counts old, and it does not matter anymore. All that matters is that you do not allow the person back into office who will use this power that he's been given by this court, this imperial court, to implement that agenda they wrote down and published because they know that no one will stop them except voters.
It's an imperial court. No one will stop except voters. Well, that's how the system works. Pretty now contempt for voters. Which Ivy League law school did she go to again? They all went to the same factories and they all came out with the same tiny little brain. How about the Democrat Nicholas Roski, who went to Brett Kavanaugh's home and had a pistol and extra magazines, and he was planning on killing 3 Supreme Court justices and committing suicide. It was another wannabe suicide attack by the Democrat Party to murder 3, not just Brett Kavanaugh, but 3 Supreme Court justices. And what is the response from the mainstream of the Democrat Party and the media? To turn up the heat, to dial it up. The Democrat Party accuses you of being a threat to democracy. Reading the Russian playbook might lead you to believe that that's because they know they are a threat to democracy. Yesterday, a poll actually I cited last night on my Newsmax show. A jaw-dropping 72% of registered voters, CBS News poll, do not believe that Joe Biden has the mental and cognitive health necessary to serve as president. Even James Carville was spun up about this yesterday when he was on with Jake Tapper on CNN.
We have a country that 72% want something different. If the Democratic Party can't produce something different that 72% of people want, then why do we exist? What are we here for?
You should go away.
I mean, the country is clamoring for change.
They don't care.
And what are we going to offer them? The same stuff?
Yes.
It doesn't make any sense, Jake.
Yeah, it's George Orwell, and that's Jake Tapper going into Orwell. We got very little time, but let's let's go to Richard calling from Manassas, Virginia. Richard, again, not a ton of time, but welcome to the Chris Plante Show.
Hey, thanks for taking my call. I appreciate it so much. The Democrats and leftists are just stupid. They don't realize that there's a lot of unwritten, accepted principles in our Constitution, like prosecutorial discretion, separation of church and state. The presidential immunity is kind of always been implied. That's why Obama didn't get, or Clinton, I'm sorry, my point, didn't get sued for murdering the family at Ruby Ridge, or David Koresh and all the children in Waco.
Right.
It's because there's an assumed immunity, and the Democrats forced the Supreme Court to say, no, you can't do that. It was their official acts as part of the commander-in-chief duties,
right,
et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
While the separation of church and state is nowhere in the Constitution, yet it is a principle that they operate by. So,
and the left believes in that very, very much, because they'd like to separate religion from humanity, because the state reigns supreme for them. They don't want any competition from God. And you're right. And Ruby Ridge and Waco, even better. I always thought Janet Reno should be in handcuffs for that one. She crawled in there with a gas can and a Zippo lighter, lit all those children on fire.